Good morning. Welcome to Elizabeth Sharon Ann Bible Study. We do the 1 year Bible Monday. No, I keep wanting to say the weekdays, but it's every morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And so if you would like this page, go on to YouTube and like and subscribe. We'd like to get as many people on that we can. And if you're on today on Facebook Live, put a message in the chat so I can see you're there. And if you've never been on before, then just put where you're from. Some of you, I recognize your names all the time. There's Rita and Jana, and thank you for joining me this morning. And so it's President's Day, February, what is this, the 21st. And so take this time today as a reminder to pray for our president, to pray for everybody in leadership. You know, we need to do this all the time. We should, as long as you've been, voting and selecting, and maybe yours didn't get selected, but still, our job is to pray for our leadership. And especially now, and also remember to pray for Ukraine. I can't imagine what they are going through today. But if you're one that has, that things just really bother you, and you're just concerned about everything. My devotion this morning, I wanted to share just a little bit. I like to share at least one or two statements out of it. Good morning, Donna. It says, Jesus is my peace. You are the Lord of peace. You give peace at all times and in every way. There is a deep gaping hole within me that can only be filled by your peaceful presence. So for the scriptures for that, Philippians 4:19 says, now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace in every way. Lord be with you all. That was 2 Thessalonians 3:16. 4:19, Philippians 4:19. And my God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus. All right. So that's my word for you today. So don't get stressed out about everything that's going on. Pray about everything that's going on. Okay, so I am so excited about this today. Who gets excited about it? Leviticus? Me, because I've got some great stuff. I have been researching and looking, and as I read through Leviticus, it's the animals, it's the kosher and not kosher and all of that kind of stuff. And as I'm reading down through this, I'm thinking, really and truly, I have absolutely no problem not eating lizards and some of these things that they've got listed in here. But let's kind of just pick some of them. I'm not going to read all of it, but there's reasons for all of this. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, give these instructions to the people of Israel, because see, we're still talking about a whole bunch of people. And I could just imagine as you're walking along and here's this couple of million people. Oh, there's Leslie. Good morning. You should be sitting in here with me this morning. As they find something even dead on the road, would they probably pick it up? It makes me think of the Beverly Hillbillies. Granny Clampett would have scooped something off of the road and went home and cooked it. But anyway, we're going to look at what the instructions was, and some of these are going to think, wow, why would you even have to tell anybody this? But some of it is. So he's telling them about the land animals. You may not eat any animal that has a completely split hooves and chews the cud. You may not, however, eat the following animals. And so it's talking about camels. Never been to a camel roast. I've been to a pig roast, but I've never been to a camel roast. Well, they wouldn't let me go to a pig roast if I was there. And then it talks about some of the other animals, hyrax, A hare chews the cud, but doesn't have split hooves, so it's unclean. Then the pig. Okay, so I have two things. And I'm going to read this one really quick. The first sign of a kosher animal is a split foot. So there's always something spiritual meaning to this. The foot both touches the ground and separates us from the ground. It separates us from the ground. Therefore, it alludes to the notion that in our involvement with the physical world, we must remain separate from it. Okay, so then it's talking about those that chew cud, their cud. And the other sign is rumination. This alludes to the necessity of deliberately, before engaging in the mundane aspects of life, weigh your intentions. Weigh the methods that you employ and elevate the world. Think about what you're doing before you think about talking. So then one more thing, and this is really fun. Look at this book. My husband probably got this at an auction or a garage sale. So what this is medical common sense. And the date in this book is the late 1800s. I saw a date in there, like 1896. So I had it. I usually just put my books on top of it. It's super old, obviously, and it's got like a ton of almost 1,000 pages in this. Can you just imagine? But as I'm flipping through this morning, I thought, well, I wonder if there's anything in here what they would have thought even in the late 1800s. And guess what? I sure did. I find this, and it's talking about hogs. It's naming off the animals that you shouldn't eat, even in the late 1800s. And let's see. Oh man, I can't write in this one like I do my other ones because it would be messed up. But it was talking about never eat a hog. Well, the reason, oh, there it is. One of the most common causes of blood impurities is the use of pork. It has been said that all things were created for some wise purpose. This is undoubtedly true, but hogs were never made to eat. We read that Christ used them to drown devils, and they can never be appropriated to a more benefit use. And I thought that was so funny because the picture in this medical common sense is, I don't know if you can see it, is Jesus driving out the demons in the hogs. I'm going to be getting into this one more time as we scoot along here. But, some of these things did make sense because, when you're cooking even pork at your house, you've got a thermometer. You need to make sure that it gets to this temperature so you'll know it's done, because you don't want to have any kind of a parasite. That would be horrible. Then we go on down to the marine animals, and they need to have fins and scales. And I was sad. I spoke with my sister about this. The catfish isn't on here. I love catfish. They don't have scales. But I got to thinking about catfish. Don't you think they look like a little miniature shark? Their face is this way, where other fish, are this way. But I guess what should I say? Their eyes are on top, where the other fish, their eyes are on the side. I don't know. I just like to eat them. Just give me some salt and pepper and tartar sauce. I'm good. Okay, so then the birds, it just tells you what not to eat. And what I see in common with some of these things is like even the birds or the marine animals, they're kind of trash eaters. They the vultures and stuff, they eat dead things. The catfish and the shrimp and all these kind of things, they crawl on the bottom and they eat the dead stuff. And so anyway, a lot of this stuff has to do with hygiene issues. It's a standpoint from that, because can you just imagine if people really didn't know and they just grabbed something for an opportunity to have something to eat, and it was infected. That everybody's sick. Okay, so I'm flipping on over. Let me see, down to verse 44. I don't even know if I told you where I was at. This is Leviticus 11 and 12. And I am going down into 11:44. After he gives all of these instructions to everybody, he says, I am the Lord your God. You must consecrate yourselves to be holy, because I am holy. See, he didn't want them to bring anything unholy into the camp. Now, the New Testament teaches that the Old Testament food laws are no longer binding on the Christian. And you can see, I think, that in 1 Corinthians, possibly 6:12, if I wrote that note right. But for I, the Lord, am the one who brought you up from the land of Egypt, that I might be your God. Therefore, you must be holy, because I am holy. See, he keeps reminding them who he is, what he's done, and what he wants them to do. God claims the right to speak to every area of our life. He's involved in our food, our way of living. He needs to be involved. If he's not, that should be part of your prayer. He had the right to tell Israel what to eat and what to not to eat. Our purpose of dietary laws of Israel was to sanctify and set them apart from other nations. Now, remember in Daniel 1, whenever they had Daniel and the other three, I'm not going to say their name, the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, if I'm saying that right. They were selected and brought them in to groom them, and they were giving them, all of the choice foods, choice things to drink, but this isn't what these boys ate. And so they did not follow that. They asked for permission first, and then they chose to eat their kosher food. And God blessed them for that, because they were set apart. Okay, and so then it goes on to in chapter 12. And it was interesting on the birth of children. And it was odd that it's different if a woman gave birth to a son versus a daughter. The son, the time for uncleanness is 7 days, whereas the daughter is 2 weeks. After waiting 33 days, she would be purified, whereas for the daughter, it was 66. And I thought, well, what in the world is that all about? But what that was about was that, let me find my note on that. The time for a daughter was doubled in both instances, representing a mother who brings a sinner into the world, who will also bring in other sinners into the world. Where, don't know why it was like that, but that was the thought. She's given birth to a daughter who will have children after that. Okay, so as we go on down, and it talks about the purification and the offerings, and then look at 8, verse 8. If a woman cannot afford to bring a lamb, she must bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. Okay, so remember, Jesus's family offered a pair of turtle doves at birth. So it shows that he didn't come from a wealthy family. We know that he didn't come. Luke 2:22 through 24. is your reference on that. Okay, Mark 5. I'm excited about this one too. Jesus got into the boat again and went to the other side of the lake, where a large crowd gathered around him on the shore. Then a leader of the local synagogue, a leader whose name was Jairus, arrived, and he fell at his feet. My little daughter is dying. She was 12. Please come to my house. Lay your hands on her and heal her so she can live. So much different than the guard that we have read about that just said, just say the word and it will be as you say. Jesus went with him and all the people followed, crowding around him. Now, Jairus believed that Jesus had power to heal, but he believed that Jesus should be there. He wanted him to come to his house. He just couldn't think outside that religious box. One commentator stated that we must put ourselves in the presence of Jesus. He came to the synagogue. We must humble ourselves before Jesus. Jairus fell at his feet. We must lay open our request with a holy earnestness. He begged him earnestly. And we must have total confidence in the power and the goodness of Jesus. He said, come, so that she may be healed. So Jesus is on his way. And as he's going, look at this. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had gotten worse. In fact, or she'd gotten no better. She'd gotten worse. See, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have that medical book of common sense that talks about private words for women is what this is titled. And it's got things that only women should read in this chapter. And this has to do with the menstrual cycle. And it's got some real interesting things that they thought at that time. That's so interesting because, you know, as we evolve, as we change, we learn that, you know, what things that we once thought was right really wasn't it at all. And you know what, that's going to be the same thing with all of the disease that we see today, regardless of what it is. It could be whether it's cancer, COVID, or whatever. As we learn more stuff, we're going to find out that, you know, some of the things we were doing was worthless anyway. Okay, back to the lady. She was broke. She used all of her money trying to get well. 12 years. And you can just imagine, we'll be reading in Leviticus 15 that's talking about this type of impurity, because see, she wasn't supposed to be around anybody. She wasn't supposed to even go into a crowd, but she came up behind him and she touched his robe. And she thought to herself, if I can only touch his robe, I'll be healed. Immediately, highlight that one. Immediately the bleeding stopped. 12 years this lady has suffered. She had to move out of her house. She may have given birth to a child 12 years ago, and the bleeding never stopped. She never got to be with her family. And she could feel her body healed. Jesus knew. He said, who touched me? Who touched my robe? The disciples, what are they thinking? Look how everybody is pressing around you. How can you even know who's touched you or who just bumped into you, basically. He kept looking around to see because he knew. Jesus knew. The frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. See, she reached out in secret. She came in secret. She didn't want anybody to know because she couldn't let anybody know or they would run her out. She was not supposed to be around them. She brought her secrets to Jesus. And she confessed him, basically. She said, I touched you. And he said, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over. But he called her daughter. See, she probably hadn't heard that at all. In scriptures, commentaries say that this is the only time that Jesus ever called anybody daughter. Mark has shown Jesus' power over natural and demonic forces. Now he shows his power over physical ailments and even death itself, because see, we still have the daughter that is really, really sick to the point of death. This woman was desperate. Her condition made her ceremonial unclean and socially unclean. She had to leave home and was ostracized from all society. So a suffering soul might seek self-help from a guru or books. They might try to soothe their soul with entertainment, working, success, medicinal drinks, or plants. For both of these people, Jesus was the answer. All you need is Jesus. So many times we have something that's just we've had for years. She had this for 12 years. And she felt hopeless. So her secret came to the light. While he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived at the home of Jairus, the leader, and they told him, your daughter's dead. There's no use of troubling the teacher now. But Jesus, he heard them. Don't be afraid. Just have faith. Maybe that's something you need to put on a sticky note and put on your mirror. Don't be afraid. Just have faith. Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw commotion, weeping and wailing, because see, they hired people to come cry out loud. They had people playing instruments, some kind of a horn or something. It was like a mourning ceremony. He went inside and asked, why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep. And the crowd laughed. See, they went from paid mourning and wailing to the top of their lungs to an unspiritual laughing in this moment. You could see they weren't invested in what they were doing. He made them all leave. He took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where she was lying, and holding her hand, he said, Talita Kuam, may not say that right, which means little girl, get up. And the girl, who was 12, immediately stood up and walked around. Now see, Romans 4:17 says that God gives life to the dead and calls those things which do not exist as though they did. They were overwhelmed and amazed. Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anybody and told them to give her something to eat. But see, the disciples didn't understand the difference between casual contact with Jesus and reaching out and touching him in faith. So as I was looking at this, oh man, I gotta hurry. The things about both of them were both ladies. Jairus had a 12-year-old daughter dying. This woman was 12 years in agony and hopeless. Her spirit was dying, wasn't it? Jairus was an important man. This woman, she didn't even have a name. Jairus was wealthy. This woman was poor. Jairus came publicly and the woman in secret. Jairus thought Jesus had to do a lot to heal his daughter. The woman just needed to touch his garment. Jesus responded to the woman immediately. He responded to Jairus after a delay. Jairus's daughter was healed secretly. Nobody got to come in and see that, remember, except for the parents and his disciples. The woman was healed publicly. After all this time, she was able to be with her friends and family. She was able to worship. Have wonderful, wonderful reading on that. Psalms 38, 1 through 22. And I'm just going to pop through that because there was some things I had marked from last year. If you go through reading this, David asking God to remember him. Oh Lord, don't rebuke me in your anger or discipline me in your rage. You hear the hopelessness, the depression, the sadness in David as we get down here. And then look at verse 11. My loved ones and friends stay away, fearing my disease. Even my own family stands at a distance. I wrote 2021 in there as we have experienced through the pandemic, how many people have had to stay in isolation. See, David knew what that was like. He had a lot of things going against him. He couldn't be around his son because he was trying to kill him. There was just so many things about him that justified his depression and his sadness. But in verse 21, he says, do not abandon me, Lord. Do not stand at a distance. Come quickly to help me, O Lord, my Savior. Proverbs 10, 8 through 9. The wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. I have to remember that because sometimes I like to just talk and we see that's not good. Sometimes I talk too much. I'm trying to narrow that down this morning for sure also. People with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will be exposed. Secrets come to light. They don't stay hidden. So that's all I have this morning. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Again, this is President's Day. It's a holiday for all of my postal friends. So you don't have to go check your mailbox today because they're off. They're enjoying the day. And so, you know what? Have a great day. Love one another and dream big today. I love you and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.